How do you define patriarchy? Into the mic, please.
Into the mic.
I think I don't know the right word, but it prioritizes men in society and gives them kind of an advantage.
And do you think here in the United States we have that? That exists?
To a certain degree, yes.
How so?
I feel like, there's still some jobs that need to be equal wage for both, and I feel like, again, with the pro-choice and with the abortion things, it's like...
Men do not have the right to get an abortion.
I was about to say, that's not really a gendered issue.
You are really right, but they do have the right to...
Men
make
have
laws on it.
Get a woman pregnant and hands off.
Not
sue them for child support.
Not really.
Yes, they can.
Yeah,
They can
with the child
you
support,
should,
but I don't think that's comparable to having to have a child.
Yeah, they should probably force the man to get married to the woman. Yeah, I agree.
No, I don't think so.
Why? Then you're just keeping yourself stuck for life
But
with
just
a person.
because a man gets you pregnant does not mean you're gonna raise a big happy family. That's not realistic.
Yeah, it might
That's
be.
not
It might be
realistic at all.
tougher. It might be a trickier.
No,
but it'd be.
Yeah,
but, you know,
and men
the
can
baby
avoid
exists.
child support for years and
And
I mean-
be
Kill the
potentially
baby?
jailed.
go to jail.
It's actually interesting when it comes to child support. Actually,
it is very much.
well, we as society have determined that debtors' prisons are immoral and wrong, except when it comes to, and I think, look, if you should support your child, but it is interesting that the one debt that you can go to prison for, typically, in a quite gendered way, only impacts men.
Yeah, but that's good, right? You should go to jail if you don't pay for your children.
But there's. Look, I think
Like
you
better
ought
than
to,
that than like,
you ought
you know.
to support your children. You ought to pay if you've been. Now, I do think there are certainly cases where the amount can be disproportionate to the man's income, and there are men who are in financial straits, and they actually, while they might very well desire to support their child, just due to their own financial and economic circumstances, they can't, and then they wind up in the criminal justice system unjustly.
They should just
in my
get
view.
married, though.
I think
Shouldn't
they work that out in
Raise the
court,
kid
though.
like normal people.
Like, if you don't make that much money, then they'll like, okay, you pay $50 a month or whatever.
Sure, it is. I think in a lot of states it's based on your income, but there's certainly maybe some scenarios where they set the child support and the man encounters some sort of immediate economic or financial hardship, and then he's missing his child support payments or can't pay the whole thing because he has, I don't know, maybe medical expenses or something, and then he's in jail and he can't pay for anything.
I don't think so. I think he needs to go to court and like make that be known.
Sure, yes, but my understanding is there's tens of thousands, if not hundreds of thousands of men per year who do go to jail for not paying child support payments.
The family courts are definitely stacked against men. That's for sure true. But also, like, men should pay for their kids, and really they should just get married, and then it should be harder to get divorced. And then you don't have to deal with the courts so much.
I have a question. Do you think women should have to pay child support if they make more than the man, and they're not married?
Equality.
And the man is raising the kid, not the woman.
No, the woman's raising the kid.
Oh well, then it wouldn't be child support. Then it would be like alimony or something to the man, right? But if they weren't married, then there wouldn't even be.
You're saying the man has zero custody, or is it split custody?
No, it's split custody.
Oh, it's like 50-50?
If the man would have to pay under those same exact circumstances, then yes. That's my position.
The whole thing, though, is just so crass.
Well, you'd prefer if people
I was just curious.
They just stay married, and we should order our laws to not encourage divorce, and we should just have them raise their kids like normal people.
I feel like some people need to get a divorce.
I think divorce should be fine, and I think having children out of wedlock is fine, but I think...
It's not fine for the kids, certainly.
The circumstances with DCSS and the interference of if you do have issues, let's say you get evicted from your home and you're not able to afford DCSS, the child support, that's what it is, then unfortunately that circumstance is really hard. Processing everything with DCSS is really, really hard for a lot of families. Either the mom who actually has the custody or the father that doesn't. And it's a really unfortunate thing, and it does come into people unfortunately going to prison when circumstances actually just drastically changed. And as well, it also affects not only the child, because they obviously can't have their food, they can't have their goods that they're supposed to be supported with, but as well the mother or whoever that other parent is. And it's just a really hard topic as is.
Yeah, it's all the child support stuff is really awful. But
it's
we're
really
talking about depriving a kid of like his school supplies or whatever. But like the much worse thing is to deprive a child of one of his parents, right? And so if you say like, well, divorce is no big deal and people should be able to do it, no, it has terrible effects on the spouses, but especially on the
no
But
big
kids.
deal. I
you
just think
see
in
it in
certain,
such extremes.
in
like,
certain
Right.
circumstances, it's like with abortion.
Divorce
like
doesn't-
it's like with abortion. In certain circumstances, like it has to happen. Like a certain circumstance with divorce and marriage, like you need to get like some people need to get divorced.
Yeah.
I don't really know if that's true, but certainly
is.
It is.
certainly in the case of
Because
In abusive relationships, you think a woman just because she's married
No, no.
to a man
in
should stay?
She wants to be
an
happy.
abusive marriage or something, you know, wife or husband's beating his wife, then
There's
there could be
there's always like
There's always
like,
going to
there
be
could be
reasons.
emotional
not,
abuse.
not so in a certain circumstance there is a good moral argument to have some kind of a separation or perhaps even a civil divorce if that were required to
So
protect
do you agree
the
with
children.
that? If a woman is getting abused,
I-
that she should be able to divorce her
I
husband?
don't think that divorce is a sacramental reality. I think that marriage is eternal. And I think that even practically speaking, when people get a divorce, they don't really get a divorce because they're speaking to their ex-spouse all the time and they're arranging child visits and arranging out. So just as a practical matter, you are still just kind of married to this person and you have a bad marriage, but which is why I would strongly discourage divorce. If there's a case where for the protection of a child or someone you need to have a separation, well, okay, I understand there are these sorts of exigencies. But more broadly speaking, what we're talking about in the American divorce regime is called no-fault divorce. And no-fault divorce is, one, a contradiction in terms. You can't break a contract if there's no fault of anyone. And two, it's horrific for children and it's horrific for the spouses.
I would like a percentage of how many no-fault divorces there are.
They're like
versus,
all no-fault divorces today. But obviously someone's at fault. So, you know,
I think
we
in
should say
certain
that.
scenarios, it can be more beneficial to a child to be divorced than to stay together and
Yeah.
have an unhealthy. I mean,
I
my
don't-
parents got divorced when I was 2. I'm
Look,
I'm
everyone's
cool.
parents got divorced,
My
you know,
parents
these days,
are
but
remarried. Like they're cool. Everyone's
you
cool.
don't think you've suffered bad outcomes as a result of their divorce?
More bad outcomes seeing my family fight, yeah, than when they were separated.
I don't know. That's definitely a thing that divorced parents tell children and tell society.
Well,
but I'm skeptical.
I'm an adult, so that's
Right,
my
but you
opinion.
were a child of divorce.
Thank you for
I mean,
pointing that out.
right.
Yeah.
Thank you for the
But you're saying
clarification.
my parents' opinion versus I'm saying that as a 25-year-old adult. That's
I think a lot of people tell themselves a lot of things that aren't true, but you know,
That's so funny.
And the outcomes of kids of divorce on any level when you're looking at likelihood of getting married and having a stable relationship, when you're talking about finances, when you're talking about avoiding poverty, when all of these things, when you talk about being at risk of assaults, sexual and otherwise, the likelihood of that happening in the case of divorce is much, much higher than for children with married parents. And you might say, well, my parents don't like each other and they fight all the time. Yeah, okay. Well, having mommy and daddy at home. Look, first of all, they should just figure it out and have a good marriage. But short of that, the evil wrought by divorce is difficult to overstate. And also because it's the fundamental building block of society. It's the basic political unit. So you break that up and you're going to have a breakup of society, which is what we've seen.
But if the
Breakup of
fundamental buildup
society.
that you witness is always either abuse or
No,
neglect or emotional.
I'm not in any way
No,
defending
I
a guy
know.
treating his wife
I
like
was
a
just
punch.
saying-
And I'm saying it's also not just
Yeah.
men onto women. It can be women onto men as well. But
Yeah,
emotional
but they're
abuse
like
and all these
dainty,
other things.
it's not.
I think we're just
Okay,
saying that
I'm
there's
just saying
circumstances. It's not to an
there's
extreme. There's situations and
where it is
circumstances.
more beneficial. That was my whole point.
But
That's what I said.
when we're talking about divorce in America, we're really not talking about that circumstance. I'm not saying it doesn't happen, but mostly.
But
it's
you
just
speak
like
in
no-fault
just
divorce.
extremes.
I think when you're
No, I'm
So-
speaking in the majority of cases.
If you're talking divorce, the actual like filing a divorce, yes, it's not always
Easy.
it's not always exactly without fault like you're saying. But then separation, on the other hand, that's a much larger scale. More families are separated as opposed to divorce formally. And that is to serve the real like fixing and the real like comfort of saving and protecting a child or a family member or the husband or that wife. My family, my parents, I think they separated when I was 2.5. And had they been together, I would have been more abused. I would have been through more trauma, unfortunately.
That's
Yes.
how I feel
So
as well.
For that reason,
It can happen. Yeah, I'm not denying that there's in the case of like the abuse of a child or something, there is a good moral argument for some kind of a separation, even if the sacramental reality of divorce is not such. But again, that's not. First of all, I think you've all expressed, maybe not you as much, that divorce comes along with very bad things. But furthermore, what we're talking about American divorce, we're not usually talking in the vast majority of cases. We're not talking about what
I
you're
think
talking
we all
about.
agree in the sense that a child doesn't deserve divorced parents, but we all agree in the sense that women shouldn't have to stay in a relationship with a man that they're being abused in, or those circumstances that aren't just for no reason. We just want to get a divorce and move on because we're not happy.
Yeah.
Or
So we
whatever.
agree on no fault divorce.
I agree.
I think no woman should ever have to stay in a situation she doesn't want to be in, no matter the
Exactly.
position. I
What
don't.
about-
I think
Really?
Or
What about
vice
men?
versa.
Or
What
vice
about
versa.
men?
Vice versa.
What about
Yeah,
men?
both ways.
Yeah.
both
there-
ways.
Well,
that's
If
ways.
a man or a woman wants to leave a relationship, they should never be trapped just because that's what the Bible
Just-
says.
But
No,
honestly,
just
they
because
should
they-
have
just because
should
they
have
made a
figured that
vow
out
and have
before they
children.
got married. They should have
Okay,
figured that
well.
out before they got married if they didn't want to be together, but sometimes it doesn't work out like that.
Exactly, and that's what I was kind of relaying was regardless of the emotional traumas or the damage that might have been done, all in all, if somebody chooses to separate or divorce formally because there's just no pleasure, there's no fun, there's no fundamental real relationship any further, just because they have a child, mind you, that's only 18 years, then they shouldn't have to stay together.
They should prioritize their own sense of fun over the
Not fun,
well-being
but
of their
their own-
child
the
and the
well-
vows that they
Safety,
made.
mental health.
The
No, but in this case, we're
their
talking
very
about a
own
specific.
well-being, their very own well-being, and onto the well-being that they're expressing in front of their child. If I'm unhappy and I don't love my husband
Yeah.
and I have a child and they're witnessing that I'm just always unhappy.
How about you put on a happy face for the good of your kid?
Okay, so
Why
if,
should I?
That's
No.
just vague.
Because you have a child and you
It's
made a vow to stay with your husband.
Absolutely not.
if your wife went out next week and cheated on you, would you stay with her?
Absolutely.
You would stay with her.
I would not divorce my wife under any circumstance.
You would stay with her.
My wife
No
would try to
c-
kill
no
me.
circumstance.
I wouldn't. And my wife might try to kill me. I don't think she'd cheat on me, but she might try to kill me. And under no circumstance would I divorce my wife.
If your wife went
gosh.
and cheated on you,
She could do anything. There's no circumstance in which I would divorce my wife.
anything?
Yeah.
But that's
She
his
wouldn't.
very
She's-
extreme belief.
Great
So
gal.
of course he feels
It's a
that
very-
way.
it's
It's
a
just
very-
all of our opinions.
yeah,
Exactly.
that's
What
just,
if you-
why we're
that's
here
just-
talking.
That's
Michael,
just why we're
Michael,
debating.
Can I?
I
Can
agree
I
with.
think of a couple scenarios
I'd prefer you didn't.
and throw them? No, it's not going to be anything vulgar or anything. Let me throw out a few scenarios, and you tell me. And I think I know what the answer will be, but I'll do it anyways. She voted for Joe Biden.
Now listen, rules have exceptions. Okay? And I'm no exegete when it comes to Holy Scripture. And so, look, I'm sure there must be some theologian somewhere who points out that if this woman has so renounced her reason,
Checkmate.
Yeah, then maybe in that circumstance,
Checkmate.
we ought to kick her out of the house.
Wow.
But I would still, you would give me pause. Is what I'm
Wow.
What about this?
saying. Yeah.
You find out how long you've been together with your wife?
Married 5.5 years.
Okay. Let's say during the 2016 presidential election, she had voted for Hillary Clinton. Also,
I actually don't know if she voted for Trump. I don't really exactly. No, she must have. I don't remember. She at least was tempted. A lot of people were kind of tempted, but listen,
Throw them out
if
there.
we're talking, look, I assume my wife made the right choice. I don't, but even if not, I would say, as we were talking about earlier, the past is the past. As long as, because we got to talk about penance and making
That's
right.
convenient.
As long as she votes for Trump several times in this election, because you know the Dems are going to be voting like 5 times a person. So as long as she goes, puts a mustache on or whatever, and she keeps cycling and votes for Trump a minimum of 12 times,
Okay.
I would be. I would.
Oh, we have
Grid
Grid
1
One here.
Motorsports
Hey, Grid One,
donated
thank you.
$200. 80% of divorces are initiated by women. A large percentage of those are because she is not happy. Men suffer through divorce. The percentage of divorces involving abuse are very low. Accuracy matters.
Can you
Yeah.
look up the percentage involving abuse?
But I feel like there's a lot of men that are f***ed up in the head. You know what I mean? So
Well, that's true.
why.
That's
That's
a
why
true
there's
statement.
a divorce. And also,
But
what
shouldn't
if-
they just like work on the
It's
marriage?
probably
I
just
heard-
they're
wait,
bored. I think that's probably most divorces.
They're just bored.
Look, I'm not saying, of course, abuse absolutely exists, but like I think I agree with him.
It's rare.
It's probably
It's rare.
most of the time. It's just like,
don't
what's
think it's as rare as it
irreconcilable differences? I'm bored.
Yeah.
I want some new sexual
I need
experiences.
Gwyneth Paltrow. I need a conscious decoupling. Because
I mean, in
they're-
that case, I don't think it's right to get divorced then.
yeah.
Well,
'Cause
then
you
they
shouldn't put your-
shouldn't.
if you have kids, like,
Certainly,
yeah, if you have
if you have
kids,
kids,
certainly not.
They shouldn't be getting married
Isn't
in the first
marriage
place.
a
Then.
commitment, though? You
Right,
know,
but
what
how many
are the-
times
is
do
a
people
commitment.
break
What are-
contracts? Like that's why lawyers exist.
But,
People
yeah,
break
that-
contracts
there are
all the
consequences
time.
to breaking contracts. Yeah, except for this one odd circumstance when it's the fundamental social
There's
unit.
consequences to everything.
Yeah, but
There's
in this case, we're saying, oh, it's no fault, no
consequences.
harm, no foul. See you later. But like, no, man, you know, you made a vow.
What if it's mutual?
Yeah, all the more so. No, you don't get out of lifelong vows, especially if you have kids.
I mean, I agree with you in a sense.
Totally.
Totally.
I disagree.
She gets it.
I don't get it. I disagree with you.
Naomi
still.
definitely gets it.
I definitely don't.
She definitely gets
if you
it.
tell
I don't,
them
Brian.
and you have a vow to someone that you're
Okay,
going to spend the
you're
rest
right.
of your life with them, I think you owe that to them.
You gotta
but
live
there
up to
is
it.
some circumstances where I think it's okay to get a divorce.
Could you imagine just being absolutely miserable every day, waking up with someone who
Well,
you
then how
both
about, like-
mutually don't want to be together?
Then how about you
yeah.
work on your attitude and make the marriage work?